Prince William and Catherine are winning over America, and the figures prove it.
And who's watching the kids? Harry and Meghan travel internationally again. No wonder they want taxpayer funded security. Hi, all. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here from California.
And I'm in a still sweltering, drought-ridden UK, but I've got all the news on the Prince and Princess of Wales. And by the way, I'm Rupert Bell.
Very crucial information. We did get some really exciting numbers from Richard Eden in the Daily Mail over the last week. Prince William and Catherine pulling ahead of Prince Harry and Meghan in one surprising area. It turns out that their royal foundation is proving remarkably successful in the States. Newly released accounts show its U.S. arm contributed roughly $11.7 million in 2024, while American support reportedly accounted for 44% of the foundation's total income in 2025. The foundation funds projects including William's Homewards Initiative, Catherine's early years work and conservation programs. And its latest account shows significant charitable spending alongside health reserves. So it's an interesting contrast with Harry and Meghan's charity ventures, which went through reconstruction and layoffs last year. Harry also dealing with the chaos of Senabale. We expect that to go to trial potentially at the end of 2027. Does it surprise you that America has so much enthusiasm for Prince William and Catherine's vision?
No, because I do think America does have a soft spot for the British royal family. We've seen that. Even President Trump, your president, is quite clearly enamored of the impact that our royal family can have on a global stage. And obviously the modern facing royal family is the Prince and Princess of Wales. And it's obviously, since Harry's gone rogue, as it were, it basically, they are it amongst the younger generation. So there's a lot of focus on them. And obviously there's been all the focus on Catherine since her cancer diagnosis, and on William as he tries to navigate through the sort of choppy waters of making sure the royal family has relevance. But I'm not surprised. We just know there is obviously a degree of interest in the royal family. Our program proves it. Great swathes of our audience are American. So it actually does prove that in America, they want authentic royalty, not fake royalty, ones that genuinely are going about their business on behalf of the British royal family, the future king in this case, and his wife. And obviously, I think I'm not surprised by the numbers. Obviously, there's great demands on the charitable dollar/pound, but it is good to see that the Royal Foundation and the work they're doing is attracting global financial support.
When you talk about authenticity and just like how genuine the Prince and Princess of Wales are, do you also mean in their efforts to pursue causes that are truly meaningful to them?
I think they've made it quite clear that they don't want to just pull back a curtain and open an event and disappear off into the sunset. They do want to be involved in projects that have an impact. In the Prince of Wales's case, his Earthshot Prize is something that has a global resonance. It's a global contest in a way, and trying to help the climate change. Whatever you think of what it is, it's never been so hot here, and there are clearly temperatures are changing for whatever reason. That's a separate story, but climate change and the environment are important issues. And what for the William, when it comes to that, is trying to navigate through the politicization of it, and that's a difficult one. But he seems to be managing that. And here it's homelessness, which is something that's very dear to his heart. And obviously the early years for the Princess of Wales is significant. So I think their causes are important. Meanwhile, they do have other patronages which they are involved in. But I do think it is the fact that they've tried to look at things that really get their enthusiasm, because it's a long and winding road being a member of the royal family. You've got to have things that light your fire.
Yeah, and I see some of the negative commentary online about how I mean I have seen people say Catherine's been doing this forever and what does she have to show for it? But that those people aren't Googling, those people aren't, oh, those people aren't doing the research, because what she has to show for it is a lot of research. They, how should I word this? They pursue lots of different types of surveys, and she's generating a lot of new information about the early years that we're reading about for the first time in some cases. And I think that that's one of the reasons why people feel comfortable handing a significant amount of money over to William and Catherine, because they are consistent and because these are causes that they are clearly committed to. And when for again, 4 years, they can criticize the Princess of Wales as much as they want to, but the reality is, to me, it shows discipline and it shows a real commitment to the cause. And Harry and Meghan, and I remember when Tina Brown initially pointed this out and thinking it was so brilliant. Jump on what is trending. What's the current hashtag? What's the black box? Well, that'll be where Harry and Meghan are temporarily. Then they're going to disappear for a minute. Then they'll pop up somewhere else again. But they're really not committed to any specific cause. Maybe internet bullying, but the irony is strong there.
Exactly. I think, we saw the Princess of Wales go to Italy, didn't we? And that was part of her research, going to that town in Italy where, for that part of Italy, seemed to have a very successful early years program. Didn't she go to Denmark and various other countries that have set up initiatives? They're trialing it in various parts of this country. So it's a long road. None of these things are going to be appearing overnight. As you're not going to get an overnight change. Something like this is for the long haul. It's trying to help people make sure that young children get the best opportunities. And it is, of course, it's depressing that children don't get the opportunities in the sort of very early years, because I do, I don't know enough about it, but if you've got the opportunity to learn early, it can help with your formation, education later on, give you confidence. If you're always struggling and you haven't had that support from a very early year, and this is me only reading what I think, and I believe what she's doing is very important, and hopefully it will get a sort of wider branch and actually will achieve not just sort of a little bit here and a little bit there, and actually on a wider scale. So for that, I absolutely wish her the best of luck in that, because I think it's a very laudable initiative. And if they can learn from other people, then and that's what society should be doing, learning from the success stories, not always the negative.
Also, we've seen a lot of huge companies collaborate with the Princess of Wales. I believe IKEA did at one point, and Lego. And the way that companies typically function, I don't know if this is necessarily how they function when it comes to philanthropy as much as it is, business collaborations. They need to see progress, or they need to see a history of what you have been doing to show that you are worth working with or investing in. And that's exactly what Catherine and William have when they pick these causes that are incredibly important to them. There is a history there that they can show them. Well, 5 years ago we opened up this shelter. 10 years from now we hope to do this. Even with Catherine and all her research, that Prince William jokes is taking up half the bed when he crawls in at night, and he's having to navigate through all of this paperwork that Catherine's going over every night. So I think that it's whether people recognize it yet or not, the fact that they chose some of these causes so early, stay committed to them. Maybe they aren't listed, maybe there aren't 100 charities listed under each of their names the way it used to be with Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. But it does feel like, to your point, that there's a bit of a spider web effect, and they, because of this unique strategy that they have, they are reaching a lot more people. Even if you think about the Earthshot Prize and people being able to turn on the TV and watch all of these celebrities celebrating the
Uh,
environment.
well, I think this is the important thing. They do have the ability to open doors because they are consistent and they know that their initiatives a lot need corporate sponsorship. And the corporate sponsorship, dollar stroke pound, is a hard won one. As Harry and Meghan are finding, they are not getting that corporate sponsorship to bankroll their initiatives, whereas the Prince and Princess of Wales and the Royal Foundation, because it's something that is steeped and controlled, and probably there are checks and balances. It's not a personal fiefdom. It's not something that the money has to go to that because Prince William and the Princess of Wales have their own income anyway. So they are able, with their time, to direct their work and to make sure that things can be achieved. So, and that's why I think, going back to the original point about the poll, it shows that William and Catherine do have some credibility on the global scale. And I think that's very important because actually it's very important for Britain. Going back to what we've often discussed about is the soft power. And if you're finding that within America, that polls like this are showing that Prince William and the Princess of Wales have a very favourable rating, then it's good when obviously they have to will be increasingly going onto the global stage promoting Britain in whichever way it is. And this is something that they feel that they can contribute on a very positive scale. So actually, I think that poll is a very good one, and will be, as they enjoy their summer holiday wherever they are at the moment, that will be reasonably pleasing reading. But my one caveat would be, don't rest on your laurels. This is, you've got to kick on now and make sure that the good work now is actually we can continue to see the positive with money coming in and maybe the work to help sort whatever issues, earthshot, early years, homelessness. I mean, that is a big challenge. People have been trying to do that for years. So it's no, we're never going to solve it, I don't think. However abhorrent we may think it, but we have to find a way to lessen the impact, and people do actually find a way of kick-starting their life again, which is the ultimate aim of what the Prince of Wales is trying to achieve.
Hey everyone, Kinsey Schofield here, and I want to tell you about today's sponsor. It's a total game changer, Peak's Liver Detox Protocol. You may not know it, but your liver handles a lot: energy, hormones, digestion, and even your mood. But with all the stress and toxins from everyday life, it needs some love. Forget harsh cleanses. Peak delivers gentle daily support inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Their routine uses two simple blends. The first is a warming turmeric mix with cinnamon and black pepper, designed to help the body absorb it better and support the liver while calming inflammation. The second is a ginger and cinnamon blend that helps with blood flow, digestion, bloating, and immune support. The magic is how they work together to activate and flush for better digestion, stable energy, less brain fog, and that light, clear feeling. My energy is consistent, my skin is clear, and less bloating. That's Peak, where spirit meets science. Redefine your standard of health, secure 20% off your order, and begin your intentional wellness journey today at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. Thanks so much. Let's stay on the Prince of Wales. I saw some more of those headlines circulating about William not getting along with his father, and those typically annoy me a little bit. So I did find this article that was skewed more towards Harry's relationship with King Charles, but I thought we should read some of these stories more with Prince William in mind, just to kind of give us an idea of Prince William's history with his dad. Prince Edward's ex-girlfriend, Ruthie Henshall, who dated Queen Elizabeth's younger son for the best part of 5 years, according to the Daily Mail, revealed in her new book, The Showgirl and the Prince, how much King Charles loved his sons. The Daily Mail writes, having spent time at Balmoral with most of the senior members of the royal family, Ruthie recalled Charles's hands-on parenting style, saying, "I watched Charles play rough and tumble with William and Harry, then aged 10 and 8, in the Balmoral corridors. He clearly loved those boys, and they were squealing with joy as Daddy chased them." And oh, this is my favorite story. In her novel, Charles, Victim or Villain, Penny Jr. claimed the monarch was often left with muddied trousers after enjoying a session of rough and tumble with his sons. She wrote, whenever Charles arrived at home at Highgrove by helicopter, it would land on the front field where sheep graze. As soon as William and Harry heard it overhead, they would come running out to meet him. Once it landed safely, they would race across the field and jump into his arms for a hug, smearing one suit after another with the sheep droppings they had trotted in on the way. I mean, I love these stories. I believe that they're true. I don't think that they were out there as much as they could have been back in the day, Rupert, because I just think that King Charles didn't want those stories out there. He was, it was Diana that was kind of pushing those personal stories much more so than King Charles, in my opinion.
Yeah, at that time, I remember he was the villain of the piece, and was, why he was the reason for the breakup and everything. And so, therefore, he was not always seen in a positive light then. And we know subsequently how hard it was to sort of rehabilitate Queen Camilla. So it's never been easy. So, and as we know, the royal family don't go around talking about their relationships, well, shouldn't anyway, with their children. But that was thrown out the water the moment Harry left. But in theory, I mean, Penny Jr. has always been very pro Charles, and obviously knows and has reported on him and knows him very well. Obviously, from Ruthie Henshall, that's you just trust her recollections. She's got nothing to gain in her book and writing that, so you assume it is based on a great deal of fact, and I can imagine it. And I think post Diana's death, I mean, it was a very difficult time because you had teenage children having to navigate the intensity of what the mother's death not only meant to them, but also meant to the country as whole. Suddenly, during that period from the moment she cried, basically everybody was in floods of tears. I mean, it was very un-British like. I mean, it was. I mean, it would have solved the drought problem. But it's me being a bit facetious. But we did go very un-British there. For whatever reason, Diana had a big impact, and the royal family were seen. Hence the reason why we've had all the films and books about that period, was seen to be the villains. And that made it very hard for Charles, as he then had the responsibility of being a sole parent, with one being he being the future king, and one of them, and trying to look after them as best he could, which would have been quite difficult. So I'm pleased to hear these stories. I'm sure it wasn't straightforward. What family isn't straightforward? There's never going to be perfect, and the teenagers will have a different view of something. But it's good to hear positive stories about King Charles's parenting skills, when obviously Spare did its best to show that he had absolutely no parenting skills.
Well, you mentioned Harry, so let's talk about one story that Penny Jr. also shares specifically about Harry. On the last night of their skiing holiday in 1997, there was a big farewell dinner party in their hotel restaurant. In the middle of the dinner, Harry got on his feet and, in front of the table full of people, made a little speech to thank Papa, as both boys called him, for giving him such a wonderful holiday. He then walked up to his father and smothered his face in kisses until, in mock embarrassment, Charles begged for mercy. It was a touching scene, but it also, like, to your point, it's so jarring comparing to Harry writing in Spare, like, Papa didn't hug me.
It's a great deal of fantasy, the book, and yet you know that for Charles it must be very difficult how he must have reacted to all these criticisms, knowing that he did try his best. He wouldn't necessarily have been a natural hugger, because that was one of the problems that he, very cold relationship with his father. That obviously over time changed into a different dynamic. But, Charles wasn't the sort of go-getting, sort of gung-ho youth that the Prince Philip was back in the 30s. So you've got a very different dynamic. And for Charles, obviously, with all the negativity and obviously his mother's very good PR campaign about her parenting skills and always, seeing the children loving and running up to her, you never saw any of that with Charles. I think one of those Cloisters holidays, wasn't that one of them where Nicholas Witchell and the Prince Charles made a sort of injudicious comment of saying something like, "Can't stand that man." I may be misquoting.
Wasn't it
It,
the to the media, and they were having, it
yeah,
was like in that moment where they, because
have a photo shoot.
yeah, they typically on those holidays, what King Charles would do, and sometimes Princess Diana wouldn't do this, would
Mm.
create problems, was they'd say, "We're gonna give you 30 minutes of pictures, so you'll leave us alone for the rest of the visit." And you're right. He's overheard saying, like, "I can't stand that man," or something when
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
taking
To his
pictures.
boys. So I mean, I suppose that's a for the whichever royal reporter it was. It's a sort of badge of honour, I suppose. But it shows the pressure they were under. And remember, that '90s was, a bit of a free for all. So they had to manage it, and
Wild,
presumably
Wild
that
West,
90.
really.
Yeah, and that '97 holiday, you imagine that was just a few months before their mother died. So I'm glad they were able, that was a happy holiday. After, at the end of the year, obviously they were beset with tragedy and trying to regroup, and it wouldn't have been easy. And, Harry, until that time, seems like he was a happy child, even though his parents had gone through a very public divorce. There was you couldn't get away from it. It was a media frenzy. And then obviously Diana's love life was always cause for speculation. I mean, it was a mad old time. So I'm glad that we've been able to read some positive reports about Charles's parenting skills. And actually, if you move it forward, the one thing you get a sense that William and Catherine are keen to make sure that their family feel the love, as it were. And you see pictures. They are very protective. They're clearly a close knit family unit, and some of that you want to come off from Charles's own approach and William trying to make sure that he's learned and continue to learn. But the great thing about William is he's not gone and aired his views about what his father was like. And I get the feeling that between them, they may have the odd disagreement about the direction of the royal family, but who wouldn't? There's a healthy debate, I hope. And it's not one that creates animosity, but actually they both have a common cause about the direction of the monarchy, because that is ultimately what it. Meanwhile, they can set that aside and just have a father and son relationship outside the sort of business hours.
Yeah. And I apologize to the audience if they've heard me reference this before, but I was taken aback when I first read Spare, when Harry talks about the meeting after Prince Philip's funeral, when he's surprised at the unity he senses between Prince William and Prince Charles as they approach him at Windsor. He talks about how he's kind of taken aback because he's not used to them being so in sync and so united. And it's like, bro, you did this to yourself.
Mm.
You tearing into your family will unite them because they're going to become very protective of each other.
But quite right, and rightly so. And that was a desperately sad funeral anyway. That walk back, because it was obviously there were 30 people at that funeral. It was a very sad occasion for all sorts of reasons. The fact that it was in COVID, under COVID restrictions, and then they're walking back, and it seems like that walk back had to be slightly staged, managed as well to make sure that what's the photo op and everything. So it was all pretty unseemly. So it's not really surprising that if Harry, but started to read the room, he should realise that the King and William basically said, "Well, you've been an absolute here, and we're going to make sure you know it.
Oh, I
I
love
was,
when Rupert gets sassy. We're
you
what
know,
are we, 30 minutes in and Rupert is full of sass.
yeah, well, last week it was, today I've just called him a. Anyway, there we
I
go.
love that
So
about
just,
you. I love that about you. Well, let's keep on the Sussex train. I apologize for,
yeah.
but I actually have been watching your commentary on this and it's pretty fun. Martha Stewart recently recalled being at a dinner party with Meghan Markle not long after Meghan returned from the UK, telling People magazine that she was aware Meghan had been talking about the family's recent trip and reunion with King Charles. Now we're hearing a very different version of the evening. An unnamed source who claims to have hosted the party has gone to People to dispute Martha's recollection, calling it simply untrue. This mystery host maintains that Meghan said virtually nothing about the visit beyond mentioning that the family had a great time. So we have Martha Stewart publicly putting her name to her recollection and an anonymous source insisting it didn't happen that way. Rupert, Martha doesn't have, yeah, Martha doesn't have any reason to lie to us about what Meghan Markle was talking about at a dinner party. And the fact that Team Meghan sends somebody in like so quickly after the Martha Stewart reports to dispute it tells me that there was some anxiety there that I wouldn't be concerned with if I hadn't done anything wrong.
You don't mess with Martha Stewart uh, because it's quite clearly Meghan wants to be an heir apparent to the Martha Stewart empire. But that is a £1 billion hard won operation. She's in her mid 80s now, and she has grafted her way. The odd setback too, but she has from way back. Well, I suppose are we talking probably the 80s, aren't we? That her lifestyle with the expanded, and she got into the American psyche, and as she talks about and this was, I thought, was telling. For Meghan, almost sort of having a go. One minute you're an actress, next minute you're a princess, and next you're trying to be a homeware salesman, or getting into a lifestyle. So it's almost like one thing leads to another, but actually you're not really trained for anything. And Martha Stewart is all about, and the reason, and you will know this more because you live in America, but as if you know, I do have American relations, and they talk. Martha Stewart tapped into Middle America, the zeitgeist, and became a nationwide brand, earning significant sums of money. And she wouldn't have got made that money if people didn't believe in the products and didn't think that what she was selling was good,
And
whether it
also,
be
but
the.
Rupert, her authenticity too. It was Martha's authenticity too, which she has, because she's very clever in her digs. She has subtly taken a swipe at Meghan before when it comes to authenticity, saying, "Well, I don't know. The people have to believe that you know what you're talking about." And so it's not just the products, which yes, you trust that Martha Stewart is selling you something of value. You trust that if she's putting her name on it, then it's quality. But it's also the fact that Martha herself is the product and she is genuine, authentic, an expert. You believe in what you believe that she knows what she's talking about and you trust her.
Well, and that's built up over years, so that when she's launching something new, it's just not something that's been, oh, I'll do that, and sort of make it up as you go along, which is at times we feel is the Meghan Markle way. That, oh, I've got to do that. I've got to do a candle. I've got to do some rosé. I've got to do, I don't know. I don't know if she's done soap.
Bookmarks.
I hope she's definitely done flower sprinkles. So, and if you just have to look at her cooking program, and that is the problem, because people who buy into that, they don't see in the main. Of course, there are some people who like it, and I'm not going to say they're wrong and believe what they're seeing, but I think most people look at those programs and don't actually really believe it all looks fake. And Martha Stewart is absolutely right. If you're going to build up a multi-million-pound business, you've got to be authentic. It's like when Meghan did those podcasts, she would speak to quite successful business women, And actually, those women, when you listen to the program, they talk about how much hard graft they had to put in whilst they were developing whatever product it was. I think I get into was it anyway. We've described the film female entrepreneur was very clever, but it required work and graft from those individuals to then they believed in it, they hawked it, they sold it, they were determined to make it work. Whereas Meghan, on the other hand, just thinks it will work because of who I am.
Well,
That's
because of
not
who
the
I
way of,
married. Because of who I married.
okay, but she thinks that her jam, no, stroke spread, her gloop, will move mountains. Now, I don't know how many they're selling, but I I don't know whether we're getting masses of pictures online and the sort of feedback, oh, this is a great product, and endlessly seeing pictures of her spread being drizzled over something. We don't. And that, I think Martha Stewart went into that. She has, no, just like Penny Jr. and Ruth Henshall, as you talked about, they didn't have to do that. But she was asked a question. And I would be more inclined to believe Martha Stewart's version of what happened, although her caveat was, I didn't hear, but people were telling me. I think, let's put it like that. She said hello briefly, as Meghan probably says, I want your space, probably. But at the moment, Meghan is so far from getting into the Martha Stewart space. It's going to require her head down, knuckling down, and not continuously appearing at yet another red carpet. You should be in your office, grinding away, and making sure that if you do believe in as ever, you are channeling all your energy into that. But Martha Stewart, with moving it on, thinking of the royal family, then they were probably told Meghan and Harry to shut up and not talk about it. Unfortunately, even in a private event in Montecito, Meghan can't resist sort of showing off potentially about her royal connections.
Yeah, and Martha was with King Charles in New York earlier this year. So, I think once you've had a taste of the real royals and kind of how enchanting that association can be, and then Meghan Markle accosts you, in my opinion, at a dinner party, wanting to make sure that, she gets a moment with you after her team has spent the last few years leaking that she's the second coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you are kind of turned off.
Well, I would be. It's a bit like in this country, if you mess with Dame Mary Berry or Mary Berry or Prue Lee, if you mess with those two octogenarians, I think one of them's even a non-Nigerian. I think if I've said it right, you don't mess with those two. They are, they are the sort of icons of British domestic life in terms of their cooking, just sort of being around and a comforting blanket in a way on our TV screens. For Martha Stewart, she is probably a comforting blanket. No, like it's probably a pretty hard economic place to be in when it comes to lifestyle and people having to spare cash. But Martha Stewart has a brand that presumably can stand the test of whatever economic waters are in front of them.
There's also something really enchanting about how, because she wasn't like this at first, but I don't know if it's doing some hard time or what, but maybe running with Snoop Dogg. She was, I think I saw her at the Justin Bieber roast. I can't remember, but I know that she is like
Oh, you're talking about
fearless.
Martha Stewart?
Yeah. I think that she's become like fearless. Like I was saying to Scott Rouse, she did a TV show in the last few years with, I think for Fox, with Jose Andres, who has a regular relationship with Harry and Meghan. And she was asked about Meghan during a junket interview, which is, would celebrities sit
Yeah.
there and do interviews all day long. And she blows off Meghan and is like very dismissive of Meghan. And, I don't know if she knows Jose Andres' relationship with Meghan and Harry, but she doesn't care. Like it's the fact that she can be so fearless that we also admire her for. And I also think that that's why I lean towards trusting her more so in this scenario than the Sussexes.
Well, she's in her 80s, she just probably is in the I don't care anymore scenario. Look, and she obviously had that moment where she ended up in prison. So she's been through troubled times, had to navigate through that. And she's come out the other side. And now in her 80s, she's saying, well, what do I care? I'll just say what I think. I've got nothing to lose. And she might as well say what she thinks. And if Meghan thinks that she can get the better of Martha Stewart, well, she's got another thing coming because Martha Stewart has plenty of credit in the bank when it comes to running a lifestyle brand. And that's what everybody else, I would have thought, in America. You probably know there are other comparable brands that are at that level. I don't know what they are, but they're presumably it's not dominated by just one person. But to get to even a bit behind Martha Stewart, you've got to be pretty good and convinced and confident. So I would suggest Meghan is so far down the ladder of credibility that it will be years, if at all, that she really gets into that space that Martha Stewart has created.
Agreed. Were you surprised to see Harry and Meghan in Canada over the weekend? They traveled to Canada to attend an event celebrating 40 years of fundraising for music producer David Foster. David Foster, who some around Harry's camp has described as Harry's second father. I like David Foster. I have no issues with him. The David Foster Foundation in Canada has raised millions of dollars to support families there whose children require life-saving organ transplants. They've assisted around 1,600 families by helping to cover non-medical costs and currently provide support to more than 100 families each year. If you would have just said Harry and Meghan were at this charity event and I would have just seen red carpet photos, I would have said, good for them. We like when Harry and Meghan try to raise awareness for good causes. But then Meghan posted the obnoxious behind the scenes Instagram video. And then I saw Catherine, her friend from high school, Catherine Foster's post of the event, which did feature pictures of Meghan, and there were critical comments underneath that. But she totally approaches the event in a different way. Meghan posts selfie, then a video of people following her, oohing and awing as she's walking down a hallway, and she keeps making sure to make eye contact with the camera person following her. Catherine Foster posts, yes, some red carpet pictures with Harry and Meghan, and even Meghan alone. They went to school together, but also posts the amount of money they raised that night, and posts pictures of the environment, and posts pictures of the concert where they're also raising additional funds. And for her approach to documenting the evening is the purpose of the evening, where Meghan's approach to posting about the evening is selfie, video of me walking around. And you're just like, God, are you ever going to get it?
Well, I mean, I don't know much about David and Karen Foster. They've not crossed my radar too much, so I don't know. But obviously, he is a big shot in Canada, and yes, they've gone. But
Well, he's a big shot in the music industry. He's
yeah.
like he produced Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, okay. Well, then that'll pay for it. That's probably quite good on the bank balance on a regular basis. So I imagine he might have negotiated some decent royalties on that. So fair play to him.
By
So
the way, I
good
should
luck
say
to.
that was Dolly Parton's. That was a Dolly Parton wrote that song. Don't get mad at me, but
Oh,
I
she
think he
did.
produced the Whitney Houston version. I think that he produced that
Yeah,
specific
yeah,
version.
but he might get the royalties though. But he doesn't get the music. Dolly Parton is she's a legend. Some of the stuff, when you think who's covered some of her stuff, she's amazing. Anyway, we digress. For Davy Foster, look, if he's raising lots of money, ultimately you've got to get what are Meghan and Harry getting out of this? They may have been at the top table, but who's benefiting? Archwell is not benefiting. Presumably, did they have to pay to go there? did David Foster and say, well, we'll bung in some flights and I don't know, there's some accommodation. I imagine that. But I don't know whether it did the, was it good for the evening that they were there? Or would they have raised that 14 point whatever $1 million it was without them being there? Probably.
I
I
think
wouldn't.
that they got more press attention because of Harry and Meghan's presence, but I think they would have raised the same amount of money had Harry and Meghan been there or not.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Would they? How much has it moved the charitable dial on the David Foster Foundation?
And
That
isn't
would
that
be
the
my.
difference between Harry and Meghan and Princess Diana? Because I do think people opened up their checkbooks for Princess Diana in the, especially in the States, even with William and Catherine. I mean, we just had this full circle
Mm.
moment. We just had this conversation about how people are actually opening up their checkbooks for William and Catherine. And I mean, I do think that the numbers exist to prove that people opened up their checkbooks for Princess Diana, even in the States.
I think so because she was a global figure. And she, her landmark work and other work, her AIDS Foundation work and all those things. So she did have an ability to connect on a global scale. Let's be honest, she was a global figure, hugely, one of the, if not most photographed woman in the world, presumably around about in the mid 90s. There's no two ways about it. Spent from her teenage years till her death being photographed at every moment of the day. It wouldn't have been a day going by when someone wasn't taking a snap of her. So she did have an ability to raise money. But as we said at the top of this program, the Royal Foundation does open doors because it's authentic. I assume, well, David Foster has no reason to doubt that their charitable work, if they're raising that kind of money, must have a degree of credibility into the kind of work they're doing. I don't know enough to comment. But for Harry and Meghan, it once again feels to me they're trying to prove they're where it's at, but most of the time they're where it's not.
Yeah.
And they again that picture with it had a whole lot of Canadian pipers, wasn't it? I think lined up, and then she's always cheesily looking over her shoulder. Look at me, I'm at the heart of this. I'm the big kahuna, the big cheese here. Well, she wasn't the big cheese. I have no idea who the other celebrities who were there, but I imagine it was
Well, there was
certainly
a
the
guy
great.
from Nickelback there. That did stand out to me.
Are you a Nickelback fan? What
I have
song
to
have they
tell you,
got?
I'm
What's
not so much, Rupert.
Nickelback? What do they sing? They had one
Look at
hit, didn't
this
they?
photograph. Every
Uh,
time I do it makes me laugh.
oh, that one. It's an interesting version I've just heard. I'm not going to offer any karaoke versions, but good effort there, Kinsey. Right. Don't call us, we'll call you. So you're looking to appear in a musical of the story of Nickelback. No, but I digress. But there may have been some decent celebrities there, but Meghan and Harry weren't the ultimate draw. Obviously, 14, whatever, however many dollars they raised, fair play to them. But for Meghan and Harry, he didn't feel, what are they doing there? Are they, whose children have been left at home for them to go and walk the red carpet and have a few shots? It's so cheesy. And, for David Foster and his wife, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
For Meghan and Harry, it's basically, they'll be looking what coverage we got.
It's shallow. It feels shallow
Yeah,
from
which is a
Megan
completely opposite.
Megan ensuring that she's wearing Princess Diana's earrings so she gets the headlines about wearing Diana's jewelry. It's just like it
Oh,
just feels very shallow, surface level.
yeah, it is. And that's what it looked like from me. Needy again. Here we go. Looking as if I've got to be center of attention. And she doesn't really deserve to be, in my opinion. But I hope David Foster has raised for his charitable foundation significant sums of money because we don't, and it's being put to good use.
Yeah. Why when I talked to Scott Ross about the body language on the carpet, he said that Harry and Meghan are very big and exaggerate things. Meghan with her smile, and he said real power is in the subtle
Oh,
movements. Real power is in being still. And even when I was looking through Catherine Foster's photos on Instagram, her smile is very humble. She's where
yeah.
Meghan's is like,
Yeah, less
you
is
know,
more. Yeah, less is
yeah,
more is the key to these things.
yeah,
They're the host and hostess. They know their confidence. Let's look grateful, let's look happy. Whereas Meghan is just trying to say, I'm the star of the show.
So weird.
Whereas we know that needy requirement, because that's all she's now reduced to is walking the red carpet in a not too clever way, I don't think.
All right. Well, do you agree with us, disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Rupert, we have a date next week. I'm so looking forward to it. And thank you for your time today.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm off to the Edinburgh Festival this week to go and love Edinburgh. So, going to be watching all sorts of acts, music, comedy, going to the military tattoo on Thursday night. So, really looking forward to that. Weather hopefully will be set fair, and then we can resume, and I can tell you all about it and the misses and the hits that I may have seen during the week, and hopefully there will be plenty to talk about on the royal front. But it will be quiet, I think on the royal family back here as they probably continue to enjoy their summer holiday wherever they are, whether it be Balmoral, Norfolk, or wherever. But catch up next week, Kinsey. Happy days.
We'll find something to talk about. We always do.
Yeah,
All right. We'll see you guys
I'm sure we
soon.
will.